Being an artist can be hard, but if you're doing any of these, it really ups the difficulty. And as you watch me draw this day, learn about the worst habits and mindsets that artists have that I learned that I had to dump if I wanted to do anything, if I wanted to change my life, and if I wanted to get what I wanted to get out of it. Because you can get your art success, but not if you're doing one or more of these. Now, my art game has always been one of my primary focuses in my life, okay, ever since I was young. But I'm gonna tell you that there was an even bigger game in my life that I was practically a pro at before I was a pro artist that you might be at too. So let me ask you this, friend. What do you think about your current circumstances that you're currently in right now, or the ones that you were born into? Are you somebody that's like, oh, I was just so unlucky in life and I was put into the wrong place. I was put into the wrong time. I was put into the wrong scenario. Well, I wasn't born into a family of artists, or I wasn't born into parents that could financially support me in the way that I wished I could have, or I didn't have the opportunities that some other people could, or I wasn't blessed with the socioeconomic status that I wish I had. And then that also evolved itself into my art businesses and my practices back when I first started out. And I would say, like, hey, the economy's bad and that's why people aren't buying my art. Or people aren't buying my art because the market is oversaturated, or because there's too much competition. And what this all evolved into is the fact that I was a pro at the blame game. And let me ask you, are you a pro blamer? Are you that type of person who has to blame everything about your life on your birth circumstances? I'm gonna give you another one too. If your art business is suffering since COVID, and I'm recording this in 2025, why are you still blaming COVID 5 years later? It's not COVID. Or are you somebody that's just like, man, I'm just not lucky? Well, we'll definitely unpack that today, my friend, because it's not that. And so one of the things I learned is that as I matured in life and I matured in the way that I thought, is that all of that will only hold you back. But one of the things that I learned is that if you're going to argue that you can't succeed because of your jobs, because of the economy, because of politics, because of socioeconomics, because of ethnography, because of geography, that's just victim mentality. One of the things I learned is that you have to let that go, because if you're going to give into that victim side of your thinking, then you're also going to give up all of your personal power. All of those hardships were not put there to keep you down. They were put there to test you. They were put there to build you into the person that you want to be and have the life that you want, because you cannot hope for a really good life and hope for a really easy life at the same time. Everybody that blames that, like I used to blame my life and my lack of opportunities, my lack of circumstances for my lack of success, because they've fallen victim to this victim mentality. And look, I know that that's a really hard honesty pill to swallow, but it was really transformative for me when I could just let all that go and instead look at myself and say, it's my fault that I'm in the financial state I'm in. It's my fault that clients aren't buying my work. But once you do that though, that's not disempowering for you, just to clarify. That's empowering for you, because now you have the personal power to move past your circumstances. But you definitely won't make it if you're also blaming everything else, because you can't fight for a future that you want and a future that you don't. So this habit, it really hacks your imagination in the worst possible way, and it will prey upon everything that you don't want. And let me just ask you this, right? Do you struggle with being anxious and thinking about what you are doing, what you need to do, what you have to do? Myself personally, like I get anxious every single time that I'm going to start a new project. Are you on that boat too, just like me? And so on that note too, are you doubting yourself? Every single time that you want to start something, you mentally start to convince yourself out of doing that. Are you like that too? Or does this start to evolve itself into, I don't know, self-sabotage? Are you somebody like that as well? Well, here's the thing that tends to happen a lot with us, friend, especially as artists. One of our superpowers is also our greatest weaknesses, and that happens to be your imagination. Every single time that I want to do something or I want to start something, my imagination would wreak havoc with me. Your imagination is hacked by your anxiety. And so therefore what it does is it will invent all these possibilities. Oh my God, what if it doesn't work out? What if I'm poor? What if I'm living on the street? What if I have to live in my parents' basement for the rest of my life? Oh, what if this doesn't work out for me? What if I'm just a fool? What if everybody laughs at me, okay? Does any of this sound familiar to you? Because what you're doing right here is you're wrestling with fear over possibilities. And one of the things I learned I had to push through here, just like you will too, friend, is that you have to push past fear and entertain possibilities, because it's a two-sided coin. If you can only view things as everything is going to be bad, nothing will work out, and every fear and anxiety that you hold dear in your heart and in your mind is actually going to be your truth, then you have to also entertain the other version of that. So one of the things that I used to do was in the middle of making a project, I'd be like, oh my God, I don't know about this. I don't think that this will come out. And instead I would shift that and say, okay, well, maybe it won't come out, but it will come out better than if I don't do anything. Or, oh, clients won't buy my work. Clients aren't buying my work. Therefore, I should give up. And then I would say, okay, well, what can I do in order to get clients to buy my work better? How can I get people to have eyes on my work versus other artists' work? How can I get people to pay my pricing that's much higher than other people's? And so what I've developed is a strategy of you have to also force yourself at times, like really force yourself to entertain the idea that if you think that you are wholly wrong about everything, then you have to entertain the other side that you're totally right. And that's the way it's supposed to be. And that's the way that it could work out, because you can entertain both possibilities. But then here comes the real power play here, y'all. I learned that you have to push more for the possibility than for the fear. Because when your imagination is not put to work, is not set on your artistry, what I learned for myself is it used to sabotage me. And then I would invent ways to avoid making artwork. And do you struggle with that? Because this is why your imagination has gone completely haywire and has been totally hacked by your anxiety. And the best way to get through this, as I've learned, is that you have to create a design and a plan so that you won't fail. Because if you can design for failure, then you can also design for success. But you can only focus on one. See how that works? All right, so let me ask you this question right here. How do other people view you in your artistry? Are they incredibly loving and supportive of you? Are they dismissive? Do they put you down? Do you have people that laugh at you? Because I've experienced that entire gambit. Look, when I was growing up, I had my entire family try and talk me out of this. I had them be very dismissive about it. I also had them just overall, just not engage with it whatsoever. I didn't have anybody that was really in my corner when I was going through all of this. And that makes you feel really alone. And that double hurts, as you might know as an artist, because artistry is a very isolating event. One of the things I learned is how you need to let go of that and how you can't hold their opinion in a higher regard than your opinion on this. And so just to kind of combat a lot of the things that you will see, you might be told right now that art is not worthwhile, that it's not a real job, that there's nobody buying artwork, that there's nobody who's going to be able to support you, that this is a completely fruitless endeavor for you. Have you ever been told you need to be realistic? I mean, just to be realistic with you here, everybody, the term realistic is a subjective opinion. And if you've ever been told this, here's what I want you to do, is I want you to just view that statement differently when somebody tells you that, because what they're actually doing is that they want you to play it safe. They want you to be mediocre like them. Because whenever somebody says that you're being unrealistic, what they're really saying is that they just don't have a vote of confidence in you, that they don't believe in you. And you know what? Why should you care about their opinion more than your opinion of yourself? Thing that I've realized is that with everybody that put me down, that laughed at me, that said that I couldn't do this and I couldn't do that and I'll never succeed with this, those words don't live in their head, but they sure live up here in mine. And so one of the things I learned is that I had to challenge that all the time. And that's challenging for you, isn't it? But then on the other side too, when somebody is being that way towards you, when they're taking that stance, what validates their opinion? Why do they have validity over your own thoughts and your own ambitions and your own dreams and your own goals? Why does that matter to you so much? And what gives them any type of leg to stand on to assert what they think is realistic or unrealistic or achievable or not? Because when people invalidate you, what they're actually saying is that it's possible for them, in their perception of themselves and their life, that they can't do it, not you. And then therefore they put that onto you, and that's not fair, is it? And so one of the things I learned is that not all opinions are valuable. And if you really just want a really concrete metric for this one, here you go, friend. If they're not living the life that you want, if they're not at the achievement level, the success level, at the enjoyment level that you desire, they can just sit down and shut up. It doesn't matter. Now, I know that it's obviously easier said than done, but we'll talk about that in a minute too. So for now, I just want to ask you, who is your biggest doubter and who is your biggest supporter, and which one do you want to listen to more? Because you can't listen to both. Now, on a similar note to our last point, do you have walking cancers in your life? And no, I don't mean the medical diagnosis. Who are the people or who is the person in your life that is really just bombing your overall quality of life? And I remember when I was a kid, it was really hard for me to get past being around toxic people all of the time. But then one of the things that I found really liberating was once I became an adult, is I really prioritized as fast as possible. I had to get away from them. I had to distance myself from them. And there's a lot of really weird social dynamics in play here that make you think that you have to have those people in your life, and how doing that is somehow going to equally allow you to be a supporter of a toxic person or people and be a successful artist. And so, for example, I don't talk to a lot of my family anymore. There's a lot of people in my life that I used to be friends with that I no longer do. And you might think of like, whoa, that's so harsh, or that's mean, or you might even be challenging this right now of saying like, oh my God, Sean, like, how could I ever not talk to my brother, my sister, my mother, my father, my grandparents, my aunts, my uncles? But listen, those are not realities that you have to do this. These are social constructs. And one of the things that I learned is that the biggest construct that actually matters to me is my own value and self-perception. And so if you're going to be around a toxic person, I just want to be really honest with you right now, it's going to be extraordinarily difficult for you to sustain what you actually want to do, because you are going to be tending to their toxic needs and habits by giving them attention every single time that they come at you and they make your life a living hell. And so if you're in that state too, I just want to advise you to, again, not be a victim of your circumstances, to not be in the mode or the mindset that you have to numb yourself, like we're going to talk about later today too. A lot of people will not combat these situations. And look, this may hurt. This will cause discomfort in your life. But I just want to ask you this. Do you want to have a little bit of discomfort right now, or a lot of bit of discomfort for the next 40 to 50 years? Because for most of you, that's what you're currently setting yourself up with, and that is what you are completely submitting to. And is that worth it for you? Because I'm going to tell you from experience, that will not support your art, that will not support your craft, that will not support your future either. And in fact, all you're doing is helping them live a more toxic life by having them in your life. And if you're somebody who even has to distance themselves from a friend, a family member, I just want to advise you on this one, friend. You're born into a family, but the family that you keep into your adulthood is your choice. How's that? Now, let me talk to you about the worst echo chamber that all artists get caught in. Okay, this is almost like a fly trap. It's like you get just stuck in this jar. I tend to notice a lot of artists are on two extremes. They either always tell themselves how much their art sucks, and we're gonna talk about why that's an issue in a minute. And then also they tell themselves how great their artwork is and how it's awesome. And regardless of which side of that you're on, or any medium place in between there, one of the worst places that you can ever be is stuck in your own head. And what that causes, just to lay it out there, it's just stagnation. Because if you're always doing the same exact thing, and you always have the same exact habits, and you always have the same exact mindsets, then you can only hope to get the same exact results. You see how that works? And so one of the things that I realized that I had to give up was this assumption that I knew exactly what to do at the time. And there's so many times you're like, no, I know what I have to do and need to succeed. And I know I gotta do this. I know I gotta do that. And that's always the case until you hear a better version of that one. And can I be brutally honest with you right now? Because if you haven't picked up on that, I'm really big on this. But most of the time, you know exactly what you have to do, in fact, but you're not doing it. And even if you're gonna listen to art advice like this, let me just be honest with you here. But you're not looking for advice that's gonna help you. You're looking for advice that caters to your current opinions. You're catering for advice that's going to be the path of least resistance. And here we go again. Most artists are only going to seek out advice that gives them permission to just stay comfortable and in their own lane with what they're currently doing. But again, if you're gonna only follow the same exact habits and mindsets and actions, you're only gonna get the same exact results. And I promise you this, because I work with people just like this, they're still in the same place that they were 10 years ago. And would you want that to be you, friend? And so if this is you, one of the things I would really encourage you to do is you gotta get out there. You gotta get into communities. You gotta get around better artists. That was one of the biggest hacks for my life here, was starting to put myself in the places and spaces where better artists are, not at my level, not struggling like I am. And from there, that's where I learned a lot of the best habits and tips that I currently have. And that has also allowed me to do better than them in some spaces, like especially in the freelance space here. Think about, do you need to get on to more online spaces because you don't have physical spaces? That's great too. Listen, if you want a really great one, I've got my Discord channel linked down below in the description for you. And then also too, Have you ever thought that you just need somebody to actually walk through this with you? Because one of the best things that I ever did was I started to enter mentorships. And my first mentorship, I'm not even exaggerating, literally saved me 5 to 10 years of my life off of struggling to figure out how to make my artwork better. And now fast forward to this year, I'm currently in 3 mentorships. I'm in 2 for art and 1 for YouTube. And through that experience, that really condenses time and it makes life so much easier for you. These can be free mentors, they could be paid mentors. I always recommend paid mentors because they actually care about your progress and they are actually obligated to give you some success and results too. And again, you might be somebody right now that's just like, ooh, I'm not that lucky, Sean. I don't have those resources. Okay, great, I understand you. I literally made it a priority 3 years ago to say to myself, listen, I'm only gonna get so good off of doing the same exact crap that I'm doing right now. And if I don't put myself into those spaces, if I don't save the money, if I don't make it a priority, and again, like this is where the economy comes into play. You're gonna be like, oh, well, Sean, the economy is so bad. Okay, really? Have you bought cigarettes, alcohol, cars too expensive, video games, video game systems, upgraded your computer, gone on stupid trips that you spent way too much money on? Then again, tell me that you prioritize that more than your artistry, because that's really what you're saying there, friend. You can work yourself into that place because thousands of people have. And if you want some advice on a really good mentor, you can go and check out my Art Mentorship, which is down below in the description as well. But I promise you, working with somebody, putting yourself into communities that will actually care about you and elevate you, best decision that you'll ever make. All right, this next one, this is a brutal one, and it's gonna be brutal for you too. Is the hardest thing that I ever had to break away from. But doing this was probably one of the most impactful things that I ever did. And let me just ask you, do you struggle with people's judgments of you? But let's take that one step further. Are you afraid of how you're going to look? Are you afraid of also failure? Because most of the time what I find is that people aren't actually afraid of failing because we've kind of gone ahead and twisted what failure is into some type of weird pejorative meaning where it's like, oh my God, failure equals I'm a failure. But honestly, like you'll never find anybody successful that has not secretly failed hundreds or thousands of times. But I tend to see that judgment comes up a lot. And it's one of those things that I had to also break free of. Like when I started this YouTube channel, I was fearful that, oh my God, what if I look stupid? What if my students laugh at me? What if my family is laughing at me? What if the people that I work with find out, oh my God, what are they gonna say about it? What if they make fun of me? What if they think it's stupid? And then here's another good one too. Are you currently freelancing? Or are you in a country right now that has a struggling economy? Because I see this one come up a lot where you're gonna say to yourself, well, look, I can't charge because I need to stay within this bracket because this is where people where I live get. And I personally work and have worked with a lot of artists in my mentorship where they'll tell me, well, look, I feel bad, Sean, I feel bad because I'm making more money than all of my friends. And then they ask me, well, how are you getting so much? And that makes me feel bad. But the thing I want to just release you from is that judgment that they have. Because if you want to succeed, if you want to do better than most, then you also have to relinquish their opinions of you. Because if you're holding someone else's opinion up here more than your own, then you're also telling yourself that you value them over you. And you can't ever succeed or elevate or get ahead by putting somebody else before yourself. And that's something I had to come to terms with. And it was very hard and it feels weird. And you might even say to yourself, well, Sean, this feels weird. I don't want to be weird. But here's what I want to help you embrace, friend. I learned I have to be weird. I have to be okay with being weird. I have to be okay with being the outlier. And that, just to be honest, like as just a life skill here, I always say to people, if they're like, oh, you're weird, I'm like, hey, look, if you're not weird, you're just not that interesting. You're kind of a bland person. And that usually makes people laugh about it, but it's just my God's honest truth that I've kind of come to develop and consider for myself because honestly, holding other people's judgments of you will only hold you down. Now, as an artist, you will find no shortage of excuses and limitations as to why you can't. Right? You're going to be like, oh, I can't go ahead and do what I want to do because of AI. And we'll talk about that in a second. And then you're going to say, oh, I can't do what I want because of the job market. I can't do it because I looked on Twitter and all these artists got laid off. Oh, I can't do this because it's so difficult. I can't do this because it's too expensive. I can't do this because I don't have the opportunities. I can't do this because I'm unlucky. Are you one of these people too that's just like, man, I'm so unlucky. Everything bad happens to me. I was not put in the right place at the right time with the right people. And so what you're going to construct there is basically a belief system constructed of what's called limiting beliefs, where you're going to convince yourself rather easily, because the best salesman that you will ever come to know is yourself. You can convince yourself of anything. And so it's really easy to do that, because if you really think about it, because no matter what idea you have, your brain is just a bunch of sycophantic yes men. And when you come up with this idea of like, oh, I'll never make an art, and your brain's like, yes, sir, you're correct, sir. Great idea, sir. And then you'll be like, you know what? I just need to give up art because I just need to go and do this other mediocre thing that everybody's completely miserable in. And I just want to live a life that isn't true to myself. And your brain's gonna be like, that's correct, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. You are 100% correct. You're brilliant, ma'am. You should do that. Your brain is never going to be in support, or nor is it going to be in this mode of challenging you. But one of the things that I tend to find so often, so much, is when people vehemently fight me on this. Or, here we go, you're going to fight for your excuses more than you will what you actually want to have happen. Is this you? And if you're fighting for your excuses, it typically looks like this. You're gonna see people be like, oh, easier said than done, Sean. Easy for you to say, it's not that simple, but I have this, but I have that. And you know what? You're right. You have completely succeeded in annihilating every single hope and dream that you have. Do you feel better about that? And instead of you doing that, the thing that I usually do is I flip that script around and I say, okay, do you ever pick up on the fact that you're fighting for your excuses way more than the life that you want? And I tend to find with artists is that this is what we tend to do all of the time. And it's what I used to do too, when I used to say, well, I can't because I was broke and I didn't have those people around me and I didn't have those connections and I didn't have those views in my videos and I didn't have these great clients that would just pay thousands of dollars for artwork at a time, and I didn't have the ability to enter the art industry, and I didn't have the ability to do this or that. And what you're doing there is you can just hear my voice, but you're putting so much passion into defending why you're failing rather than why you could succeed. And you're not going to ever succeed by fighting for a future that you don't want. You have to fight for the future that you do. You see how that works? But your brain, you will always find a reason not to do something and to believe any load of crap and garbage that comes into it. But have you ever thought about how you're going to convince yourself that you could do this, that it is a possibility? And so just to put this into a more concrete example too, but like, let's say that, for example, you have a diagnosis. Let's say that you have some mental health condition that you're really struggling with right now. I feel you on that, okay? I've been there too. But here's the thing, is that you will find that there are artists that have it worse than you, that did it before you and after you better than you. And that's not ever gonna go away. So instead of you succumbing and giving up your personal power to it, find a way to work with it. You'll find great content here on YouTube too, by the way, that is in support of like artists that have ADHD or artists that have depression or artists that have chronic illnesses. Your fact though is that you're making an excuse for why you can't, instead of wondering to yourself, and wonder is the key formulaic ingredient to how you get out of this mode of thought, is wonder, how do I work with it rather than fight against it? How's that sound? Can you do that? All right, y'all. It's time. We got to talk about the biggest, baddest boogeyman in the room right now. It's going to be the number one fear monger that you hear about, that you see all the time. And it's going to be one of the biggest causes of your anxiety, of your self-doubt, of your depression, of everything that you didn't have to deal with maybe 5 years ago. And I'm going to talk to you right now about AI image generation. That's right. If you've seen my channel before, you know I have a lot of heavy thoughts on this one. And it's not something that I'm impervious to. Like, I've literally come to those specific moments, maybe similar to you, where I've kind of had that twinge of anxiety, that twinge of doubt. And for y'all that are younger artists, I really feel for you in this current moment in time, because I didn't have to grow up dealing with this. And so the thing that I learned though, like, even though this was later in my life, I had to give this up in order to be a success and to keep my success, is that I had to give up my fear of AI. And if you're not privy to this, let me just lay this out for you. AI is really not that great. And it's really not producing anywhere near what people hoped and promised it would be too. But it does ride a hype train, and it literally feeds off of artists' fear. Because since then, we've seen artists stop posting, artists completely give up. And then too, I've also seen this as well, and you might have seen it too. Do you ever see pro artists that are now embracing this? And then I think that what that's done is it's also kind of twisted a lot of younger artists' perceptions. A lot of less seasoned artists will look at that and say, well, look, if that pro's doing it, then I have to do it too. And then you're looking at a pro artist and saying like, oh, well, I have to do it because they're doing it. here's the thing I just want to let you know. They're a pro and you're not. And they can use it because they already have the skills, the habits, the mindsets, the insane artistry that you don't. And you don't. And because of that, you can't think that you operate like that level of artistry, okay? You can't go ahead and fight a level 90 boss when you're level 10. Every gamer in the world knows this one, right? Does that help put it into perspective here? Because listen, you might see people doing this, you might see people fighting against it, but regardless, you cannot, at your current circumstance, at your current place in time, at this juncture in time, think that somehow emulating what a pro artist does is going to help you. You need to focus on instead, as I learned, that you just need to focus on what you're doing. And it's because of that literally, if I gave you a graph of my art business since AI came out, it literally has done this and gone up. At no point did it go down, no point did it flatline. It's always gone up. And you can be like that too. And then too, if you're embracing AI because you're afraid of it, which, just to be honest, anybody that's embracing it is just wholly afraid of it, and they're doubting their self, and they're doubting their skills, and they're doubting their potential. And overall, what you're doing there is you're just succumbing to a fear-mongering mentality, but you're not learning anything new. You're not becoming a better artist. You're giving up your artistry. And that's not gonna help you, friend. And one of the things I learned is that if I wanna succeed, I have to do it through my efforts. And you can't outsource that. All right, so here's a really common struggle that I'm gonna go ahead and guess that you probably can relate to. So do you work a full-time job? Do you have to carry a career? Do you maybe have to do a career and kids? Do you have a career plus a spouse? Do you have a career plus a social life? And so with that, it kind of brings into this issue that I learned kind of early in my career. And so this deals with what you were doing outside of work. Because when you're going to work, I just want to make this really explicit for you. You are not working for your life. You're not working to support your hopes and your dreams and your ambitions. And so one of the things I used to do was I would go to work, I'd give it 150%, and then I would come home and I'd be exhausted, and then I would sit down and I would just completely inundate myself with the latest show, the latest movies, the latest games, and do nothing for myself. And even for me, like I've been a professional artist now for over 15 years. And as an art teacher, I would spend, and I found myself spending so much time making artwork and helping artwork and creating examples and doing artwork that was explicitly for my job. And that made me feel empty inside. And if you really diagnose exactly why you feel like you can't go ahead and give more to your life, that is what I would cite is the number one reason. Is because you're giving all of your cup to something that does not matter for you, that you can invest into, that you can be fired or let go of on a whim's notice. I mean, look at what happened with COVID, right? And if you're doing that, then you're not building a life that is for you. You're helping somebody else build their better life, their best life that you wish that you were living, right? And so what I've evolved myself and my thinking into understanding is that this entire mindset around like you deserve your nights and you deserve your weekends for yourself, that's pure entitlement. You've been taught that you deserve your nights and you deserve your weekends, and if you put in a hard day's work, then you deserve to have your leisure time. You deserve to have it for yourself. But my new mentality is, I ask myself this, did I earn that break? Like before I sit down and play a video game, I'm gonna ask myself, whoa, Sean, did you earn that? Did you do everything that you were supposed to do? Did you do anything actually for yourself, not for somebody else, not for a corporation today? Because if not, I'm not gonna do it. Before I sit down and I watch that new anime, like I still haven't watched Solo Leveling, I ask myself this, what have I done that makes me earn that? Because you're gonna tell yourself this, and this is just wrapped up in this cloud of entitlement, by the way. You're gonna tell yourself, you get to have your weekends, you get to have this, you deserve it. And what did you do for it? And then you're gonna tell yourself that you earned that leisure time. But yes, you did. But using it to actually propel yourself into the future that you want, to actually build what you want and you need and you desire, not sitting down and just being a leech sucked onto a screen. That's not enjoyment. And same thing goes, like if you are going out and you're partying every single night and you're always going out and seeing other people, just to be honest with you, one thing I learned from doing that is that you're just distracting yourself because it's easier, because it's more fun. And if every single night, if every single weekend you are having fun, you're not living, you're numbing yourself. And so if you adopt this similar mentality, like I had to give up this entitlement mentality that I deserve every single night and weekend, no. Now I think to myself, I need to earn those nights. I need to earn those weekends. If I haven't earned it, then I'm not going to take it, because the most miserable, the least fulfilled that you will ever feel, the most depressed, the most anxious you'll ever feel is when you're not making any progress towards the life that you want, and instead you're just ingraining yourself in the life that you currently have and don't want. You ever consider that? All right, y'all. So now comes to the biggest killer of content creation. And this used to be something that I horribly struggled with. And I'm not gonna lie, this is something that you definitely struggle with. And it's something that, as an artist, by the way, that you've been told that you actually need to be a participatory member of this one. And specifically what I'm going to talk about here, and what I want to warn you against, is that content consumption is the killer of content creation. And if you're somebody who is spending an inordinate amount of time, a disproportionate amount of time in consuming content rather than creating your own, then you're trading the life that you wish you have and giving that to somebody else. And this is such a huge issue. And I used to be somebody who was like a massive avid gamer, and then I would look at my stats, I would look at my playtime with some type of pride, like I sunk in like 150 hours into Elder Scrolls, like that meant anything. But then I would also feel that sting of regret afterwards, to be like, oof, what if I put some of that, like just a third of that, into my artwork? Because if you're saying that you don't have time and you're taking a look at your game time and it far exceeds what you're putting into your artwork, well, that might be why you're miserable. Have you ever considered that? And to help you realize this, I made an entire video about it right here. So go ahead and check that out. If this helped you, share with somebody that you know. Thanks so much, and see you next time.